Again, this is Ken Kreitzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business today from my home office in White Plains, New York. CBSI, based in Harrison, New York, has served the credit card and the banking industry for over 40 years, providing insurance services, benefits, customer service management. We've got a great team working from home, taking care of our clients as we speak, and we're very proud of their efforts. Now, today we have a chance to talk with a friend calling in from Ohio, and that is Alexandra Bowden, who's a founder and CEO of PEOPLEfirst Talent and Retention Consulting. Alexandra, good to talk with you today. How's everything going?
You too, Ken. It's going well. It's a little cold, but hanging in there.
Yeah, it's been a late spring. It's raining here in New York, but great to meet you. You've been in the recruiting business, the HR business for your career, and you come out of The Ohio State University. Had a great day there with Army football a couple of years ago. Tell us a little bit about your career and starting your own company, if you would.
Sure. So my career actually started before talent and consulting. I graduated with my degree in dance. So I went on to New York City and pursued a professional career in dance. Taught for many, many years. And really, I had what I call my quarter life crisis at about 25, where I realized that I wasn't going to be able to sustain myself anymore. I was working 15-hour days and still barely making ends meet. I couldn't afford to take off to go to audition, go to classes. And I really felt like the hamster in the wheel. So I was like, okay, well, this needs to change, but what do I do now? And that was quite a struggle for me because I had spent my whole life working towards one goal, and that was being a dancer. And I achieved that goal and then realized it wasn't sustainable. So having to make that transition was really challenging and emotional and stressful because I didn't know how to apply such a niche field to something else. It took a lot of soul searching and exploring opportunities that I'd had up until that point, which were also very dance related, right? Like teaching dance. But I had the opportunity to work in the nonprofit sector, both in Baltimore City and in New York City. And in both circumstances, I was helping run these nonprofit companies that would implement programs in inner city schools. So I was hiring the teachers, I was negotiating contracts, I was interviewing them, I was managing them, and I was working with administrations to make sure that the programming was successful. And through that process, when I looked back on it, I realized I'm doing a lot of things that can be applied to the business sector. And I had a company called PEP Promotions. They took a chance on me. The VP hired me to work directly for him and very quickly realized that I had these interviewing and hiring skills and started leveraging that. And through that process, I always say I fell into talent backwards because it's kind of like they identified the skill and said, yeah, we need that. And I started doing it. I started managing a committee of 40 people, helping to recruit and hire for the company, quickly grew into basically like a talent director role over the next 5 years, where I was setting strategy, I was doing employer branding, I was interviewing and hiring and growing my own talent team. And through that time and that process, there were two things that really stood out to me. The first was that, I had a passion for helping people navigate that transition that was so challenging for me. How do you take your skills and apply them to something completely different and not feel discouraged that it's ever too late to do that? Just because you find one path that you're really passionate about doesn't mean there can't be other roads and opportunities for you to find passion and fulfillment through work. And then the other component I was really excited about was in seeing my colleagues who went through things that I went through, like the 2008, financial crisis. There were a lot of people in the arts that were finding their way into business sectors and excelling. They were able to use a lot of the talents that they had developed, the discipline, the organization, the being able to juggle multiple things at once and apply it. And they were thriving in these corporate sectors. But they had a really non-traditional background that could be overlooked by many, many companies. And I realized there's so much talent there that we needed to reshape the way companies view talent and how to hire great people, because great people don't come in a box, right? We like to put them in a box in a resume and say, you've had this exact experience, so you're going to be perfect for this role. And there's actually very little correlation between experience and being great at a job. So everything that we define as criteria for someone being great at a job is truly wrong, you know, and I wanted to reform and reshape the way corporate America thinks about talent. So that's how I got into starting my company. We work with people in career transition, and we also work with companies who are growing and looking to hire the right talent and want to know how to get that top talent to stay long term.
Well, your comment resonates with me. I'm thinking of a family member graduating from college this year who's been studying the arts in New York City, and the environment to graduate from college this year, Broadway shut down. And it takes some thinking about how you use those skills and transfer them to other opportunities. And I said to him, if you can speak on a stage and do well and be comfortable, you have a great future in sales.
Yes.
Or corporate promotion. And so that's so a key for so many people today. Now, in your practice, you know, obviously right now it's helping companies survive the COVID-19 situation, both small and large companies tremendously affected. And a lot of us have shifted to working at home. Which for me was a big adjustment because I'm very seldom at home. I'm out at events or at the office 7 days a week, it seems, but it's a new normal. What have you been hearing about how it's going from your clients about their adjustment to having their staff work at home?
It has been a very big challenge. Now, I will say, of my clients, the ones that have shifted to working from home have done so with marvelous strength and resolve. Like, they did it within a week to 2 weeks. They were very quick in responding and getting almost their entire workforce at home. But sustainability has been a big challenge, right? People are getting antsy being stuck in their house. They feel disconnected. And from my own experience of having to shift from working in an office to running my own business and going full time, it took me about 6 months to a year to really make that adjustment. So we're throwing people into this environment of having to adapt immediately. And then you add layers on top, like your children, right? And having to work with kids around. So that's been the biggest challenge, I think, is people trying to balance productivity with their own mental and emotional health, of dealing with the stress of being stuck at home, the stress and fear for their safety and their family's safety. And then the layer of kids, having to teach kids if they're in, you know, school age. How do you manage all of those things? So, you know, I've been putting out different resources here and there as I come across them, and from my own knowledge and experience of how to balance that juggling act.
Well, that is a lot to juggle. I know our teammates at CBSI with families, it's a lot, because all of a sudden you got very full, busy households and competition for the Wi-Fi. If you got more people trying to use their laptops simultaneously for school and for dual career households, it's a lot. Have you found any techniques or keys that make it work better in working from home, either technology or just general practices?
Yeah, I think the best place to start is just self-awareness, just being able to identify what your limits are, where your natural peaks and flows of energy. Like, if you're a morning person and you can get up at 4 or 5 a.m. before your kids are up and about and knock out a couple hours, great, capitalize on that. You know, if not, wait until you have moments of time later in the afternoon and intersperse more breaks. The reality is that in our current, climate, you're not going to have that typical 8 to 5 window where you're uninterrupted, especially if you have children at home. And it's actually proven to be not very productive working that way anyway. So we might as well just really know what we need for balance It could be planning out things ahead of time, like our meals, so we don't get distracted or rummaging in the kitchen, you know, when we could be working. Or, you know, I know that I have a lull in my energy in the afternoon, so I'm going to take a break at that time, and I might come back later in the evening when I have a new burst of energy to be productive. Keeping discipline to a schedule. So once you figure out how you work best and when you're most productive, create a schedule around it and stick to it. So you might have short windows of time where you're like, you know what, I'm going to focus on this for an hour, and then I'm going to move on to something else. You're not just like wasting energy here and there. Another thing is communication. It's really easy to get isolated at home. And so anytime you can put on the camera and talk to someone face to face or pick up the phone, that's really, really helpful. In addition to getting up and moving around, right? If you're juggling kids, being able to make time to interact with them so that they're not so needy and demanding throughout the day. Embracing interruptions, right? Sometimes my 2.5-year-old comes in on a call and he's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. And the only thing I can do is just pause and talk to him for a second, and he's on his way. But if I keep saying, I'm on a call, he just keeps trying to interrupt me because he wants that attention too. So truly it's, I think, letting go of the idea of perfection and being aware of how we work best, what balance looks like for us, what helps us reset. So it could be meditation, it could be just drinking our coffee in peace and listening to a podcast that's interesting to us. You know, some people it's exercise, interspersing those things throughout your day, throughout your week. It's probably the biggest balancing act that we've ever experienced. And as Americans, I think we juggle a lot more than most people quite well. So we just have to relinquish the perfection and realize that this is just a new environment, and we have to recalibrate a little bit.
Well, that's for sure. I try to go out and jog for half an hour in the morning most days, and I find that's a big part of staying fit and then getting set to work off a screen for a long portion of the day. Now, one of the things that's so important, and it is at CBSI, is managing teams. When you have teams on managing, as we do, contact centers and managing a client's projects, and you know, it could be in advertising, where I think there was always had developed a kind of a collaborative model with virtual companies. But how do you see, what's the key in your mind to managing an internal team to take care of a client project?
I think the best thing that you can do is shorten meetings so that they're more effective, right? The days of the hour-long meeting where only 30 to 45 minutes of it is actually productive, I think are gone in this environment. You know, if you're going to schedule an hour-long meeting, like make sure you actually need the hour and you have some agenda plans. Otherwise, I think just short meetings, 20 to 30 minutes, highly productive, highly focused. In addition, making time and more effort around communication. So this could be, you know, morning team huddles via FaceTime, or having lunch together where the first 15 minutes you're just chatting and checking in on one another. So you're still building that relationship, because as we know, relationship is important for collaboration and working together effectively. And then the next 15 minutes of your 30-minute lunch hour is checking in on, you know, what can I help you with today? What are you working on? Where are we with this project? What's the status update? Having a recap at the end of the week of what you're going to tackle together the following week. The more often we can check in, but keep it brief and productive and highly focused, is, I think, going to make the most effective use of people's times when they are in an environment that's very distracting and they're spread so thin.
Well, it is, you know, keeping meetings short and focused is so important today. Some of the people we've talked to said, you know, having an all hands call every few days can keep everybody in touch in a company where that's possible.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things, this opportunity do things quite a bit different for both individuals and for companies is to look long term at what's working, what we're learning from this experience might work better. How do you see companies and individuals using this very unprecedented time to kind of do a reevaluation of their careers or their companies or their departments? What do you see happening there?
So I see this as, I hesitate to use the word opportunity because this is such a tragic time for so many people, but I really do try to find the positive of this. And prior to COVID-19, there were so many companies that were really hesitant to make the shift to remote work. Maybe they were even interested in trying it, but they were worried about putting it out there and having to take it back should it not work, right? That's the risk that you run. Or who do I select to have this trial on? Well, we've now done the hard work. The heavy lifting of moving to remote work is in the logistics of setting it up and getting everything moving. And most companies had to do that very, very quickly. So now that everyone's already shifted from home, it's really an opportunity to figure out what's working well, what's not, measuring productivity. Now, a caveat to measuring productivity is we do have to keep in mind that there are things abnormal about this remote situation, like we've mentioned, like having kids at home that you're trying to balance, right? The fear and the emotional attachment to what's happening externally. But with those in mind, people tend to be much more productive. And it's been proven that remote work is more productive. So now that you already have a remote work in place, and most of the nation, probably, I think more than 50%, I think it's about 53 or 54% right now, is working remotely.
Really? I didn't realize it'd be that high.
Yeah, from 3% prior, right? A huge shift. Start measuring these things, figure out who's really enjoying it. The thing about remote work too is it's a huge engagement factor. So people now want a lot of flexibility. They crave work-life balance. And I see this more than anything in those that come to me for career transitions. We walk through things like, what are your drivers? What are most important to you? Flexibility, work-life balance are probably above and beyond all. If you want to keep top talent, you're going to have a hard time taking this away from them once they've had the taste, right? Once they've been able to adjust to this. So start really thinking about the positive impact that it'll have on your business and your bottom line by being able to come up with some sort of compromise, whether it's a couple of days a week. Again, measure that productivity, check in with your people, understand, who it's working well for, who it's not working well for. There are people that are not set up to work remotely, especially not full-time. Some people maybe one day a week, 2 days a month max. They're very social in-person people. Those might be your workforce that can make the transition of phase one. As we start moving people back into the office, check in with those people and have a good pulse on who this isn't working well for, and have them be the first ones to transition back. And you've had an open conversation, right? You don't want to put them out like they're pigs to slaughter of we're sending you back first and we're going to test this on you. They might be the ones to look at maybe phasing back earlier than everybody else. I really, at the end of the day, see this being much more normalized. Now that we realize the big scary dragon of remote work is not that scary, there's plenty of technological things to support remote work, huge impacts on the environment, right? Like companies save $10,000 a year per employee by allowing remote work. Employees can save up to $2,000–3,000 a year just in commuting and traffic. We save somewhere like 90 million lives in traffic accidents by removing cars off the road. We save 53 billion carbon emissions, the equivalent of taking the entire state of New York's workforce off the road for a year. And we're seeing that happen now with these rivers clearing up and ozone layer healing, right? There's business impacting, and there's also environment impacting and social impacting. And I think we're seeing the benefits in play right now. We need to not be blind to that and try to capitalize on it as we move forward, since the hard work's already been done for us.
Well, no doubt there's going to be lasting change as employers see the economics that you mentioned, and many employees will prefer, especially those that have longer commutes to their offices, to making the shift to a combination of office work and office presence, and then remote work. Now, Alexandra Bowden, great to talk with you today. Do you have a final thought for us?
I would just say, hang in there, extend yourself grace, both business owners and employees. It's a new time for everyone. I don't think we're going to go back to normal. So we just need to keep an open mind and look at this as a time for innovation. We're going to come out of this. The human race has survived a lot, and we're going to come out of this stronger. We're going to innovate from it, and we're going to be, better for it.
Absolutely. Great to talk with you. I hope we can talk with you again, as we're hopefully in not too distant future are going back into the reopening of the economy and getting used to going back to the office. While you were speaking, I was thinking about children who are going to have to adjust, maybe going back to daycare after they've had their parents around for several months. It's going to be different. But a pleasure to talk with you. Alexandra Bowden, graduate of Ohio State and the founder and CEO of PEOPLEfirst Talent and Retention Consulting, based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Just a pleasure to talk with you today.
You too, Ken. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure, and we'll do it again. And this is Ken Kreitzer for CBSI Services Talking Business, representing our company based in Harrison, New York, serving the bank market with insurance products for over 40 years. And so want to wish everyone a good day and best wishes on getting through this. And so from everybody at CBSI Services, have a great day.